Coming up on episode 207 of Wheel Bearings, we drive the Acura MDX A-Spec, the Jeep Wrangler 4xe, the Audi e-Tron GT, the 2021 Genesis GV80, G70, and the 2021 Honda Santa Fe. We also talk about President Biden's executive order on electric vehicles, the Detroit Smart Parking Lab, road tripping in an EV, and the cancellation of the New York Auto Show. All coming up next. Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. This is episode 207 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Abu-Al-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Nicole Wakelin. We'll go with True Car this week.
And I am Roberto Balden, and we're going to say Kelly Blue Book.
Ooh,
a new one.
A new one, yeah. I haven't actually written the words that are due, but they're coming.
Let's see if we have to edit that out shortly. No.
Well, maybe by the time this is posted, they'll be written.
I think so. I think,
yeah.
I think they'll be written by then. I have like 5 days.
All right. Okay. Nicole, why don't you go first? What did you drive?
All the cars. Just all of them.
All the cars.
All the cars.
Excellent.
Okay, but I stuck with one brand. I drove actually 4.
Sort of.
4. I'm going to talk about 3. One I'm going to hold for next week. We'll start with the 2021 Hyundai Santa Fe 2.5 turbo all-wheel drive calligraphy, which is the fancy schmancy new trim level of the Santa Fe. And it is, in fact, really fancy. Like, it's absolutely beautiful inside. I've said this about the Hyundai brand before, but they pack so much into a vehicle for such an amazing price that when you look at the sticker, you're like, wait, this is clearly a typo. This belongs on a different trim level that's like 2 down from this. So the car I was driving was $43,000, which isn't like it's like cheapy cheap, but it's not outrageous expensive. So it's $43,430 as a 2.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder that is new. That's a new engine this year with an 8-speed dual clutch, 277 horsepower, 311 pound-feet of torque. So that's new. It has an updated interior, an updated exterior. It's not an all new because it has kind of refreshed stuff, but it feels very different. It looks
just came
fantastic.
out a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So it's not technically an all new, but I mean, it's got new engines, new outside look, new inside look. So it's not technically all new, but it's a heck of a lot of new. I guess I'll say it that way. A lot of new. And I mean, this is a mid-sized crossover, 5 passengers. It's very roomy. My husband is 6'3", so he's my test case for all you tall folks out there. And I have him move the front seat back to where he's really super comfortable and then try to get him to sit behind that front seat. He can do that no problem. Like it's not even like it's close and he's thinking, gosh, if I move my feet 2 inches, my knees are going to smack the seats. No, it's really roomy. You can put 2 6-footers front and back to each other. So it's surprisingly roomy inside. Has a lot of room for cargo. I think it's just about 72 cubic feet, give or take, of cargo room. So you can put a ton of cargo inside there. And the interior of it is stunning. Like if you're familiar with the Palisade, you know how the Palisade sort of elevated Hyundai, even like it looks so good inside. Not that their other vehicles didn't, but the Palisade looks amazing. This is like Palisade level. Like it feels like they're like, okay, Palisade did really well. Let's try and copy that with what we're going to do with the not quite all new Santa Fe. And I feel like they did it. It is roomy. It is comfortable. It is nice to drive. It's responsive, but it's not a sporty car. It doesn't have that aggression that some truly sporty cars do, but it's got 277 horsepower. It's a turbocharged engine. It moves. You hit the gas, it gets out of its own way. So I enjoyed driving this, and I think that it's the interior. It's got like Napa leather. I mean, this calligraphy edition is crazy. It's so pretty that it makes me nervous. Like if I had kids I was putting in this that were little, I'd be like, oh God, what are they going to do to that leather? Oh God, please don't eat your mandarin oranges from Wendy's on these seats because who knows what it's going to do to the leather. But I like this car. I like Hyundais. I think they do a good job. So this is that new calligraphy edition. If you're looking for that upscale, truly an upscale not quite luxury, but really kind of close to it. The Santa Fe does it in this trim. And for $43,000, if you go to a real honest to God luxury brand, you aren't going to get it for $43,000. And even if you do get it for 43, it's going to be stripped down to have all the worst interiors that luxury car offers. So it's not actually going to feel as nice or look as nice as this one does inside.
No, and does it actually have any calligraphy in it?
Did it have calligraphy? I don't think it did. That's a good question. I don't think it did. I feel like somewhere, I should have looked at like the badge on the back. Was it written like in fancy script? Like, what's the one that does that? Who does that? The Buick, their Avenir trim. The Avenir. Those words are written in kind of this fancy script. But no, it does not actually have calligraphy, which I guess is a bit of a disappointment. Is that false advertising now, Sam?
I don't know. I mean, Infiniti has, the autograph trim levels, and, they don't actually have any autographs on the car. So, it's par for the course, I guess, for the industry.
Babe Ruth.
I guess
just random autographs.
Everybody's got limited and platinum. So, I guess they wanted to come up with something different, to set them apart, as their premium trim level. It's, it's interesting that, Santa Fe is getting up to this level of, kind of that price point and that level, a degree of luxury that, a decade ago, the original Genesis sedan was kind of barely hitting that level.
Right.
And now you're doing that with the Santa Fe, and you've got Genesis on top of that. I think I haven't driven the refreshed Santa Fe yet, but the last one I drove with the 2-liter turbo, which has now been replaced by that 2.5, was really impressive. You mentioned it's got the DCT, the dual clutch transmission. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe it's an 8-speed dual clutch. I thought that's what I saw in there. Yes.
Okay. Okay, because they had an 8-speed before, but it was a regular automatic transmission. I didn't realize they were putting the dual clutch.
Hopefully, I'm not lying to you. I thought that's what I saw.
No, that could be. It wouldn't surprise me if they were doing that. Because that's a new transmission this year that they also have in the Veloster N, and I think in a couple of other models as well. So
yeah, no, it was a great. Cool. It really was a great car to drive. I've when you're talking about Hyundais being the 10 years old and they were different, they were so very different 10 years ago. Like it's funny because the last time I checked, and this numbers could have changed, the average age of a car in American roads was like 11 years old. Most people kept their cars for 11 years.
Now I think it's about 12 now.
Is it about 12 now? Okay, so it's changed slightly. So you think about that. If the average person has kept their car for 12 years, their impression of what Hyundai is 110% wrong. Like in every way, shape, and form. So I feel like I'm always trying to convince people, like when they're like, oh, what car should I get for whatever, like friends even, that, they're actually going to listen to what I'm saying. And I'm like, you guys, you should check out the Hyundai. They're like, ooh. I'm like, no. You haven't been in one in a decade. Go check it out. Honest to God, you just got to trust me on this. You're going to be impressed with this because they are so much better in every way than they were back then. I wish more people would give them a chance because they are much better vehicles than they were once upon a time.
Yeah, it's always
the same is also true for Kia, their sister brand.
Oh, and by the way,
which is a completely different company.
Yes, not even remotely close. So I double checked. So Sam, I just pulled up the specs. So the 8-speed dual clutch is what's on the 2.5 turbo.
Okay.
It's just they have an 8-speed, just an 8-speed on the 2.5 liter, the non-turbocharged, and then they have a 6-speed on the hybrid. So yeah, it's just on the 2.5 turbo that it gets the dual clutch.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. What about the other two cars?
Okay, I have all these papers. Ready? Okay. Because I had to take notes because there's so many cars. Okay, car number 2. So we were mentioning that Hyundai also has another brand that is somewhat upscale in nature, Genesis. That's exactly what I was driving. So I had the 21 Genesis GV80, which is their SUV. And much like Hyundai makes their sort of mass market, not technically luxury cars feel like luxury cars, this Genesis feels like a much higher end luxury car. It looks it when you see it sitting there. When you open the door, the materials in this thing are absolutely stunning. The way it rides, the quietness of it. It has that luxury cars always kind of float, unless it's like truly a performance car. There's this floatiness to them. Like oh, that wasn't a bump. It was just like a little wave in the road that you're going over. Like there's this floatiness, like we are going to keep you so comfortable. You're not quite going to be sure what's under your wheels, but it's not going to be harsh and it's not going to bother you. You're just going to comfortably float along the highway. That's what this does.
Supple.
Supple. I like that. That works. Supple. So that is what you get when you drive the GV80. This is a bit more expensive than our Hyundai Santa Fe. It is $72,375. But you are getting, again, you're getting an 8-speed automatic, a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. I forgot to write the horsepower because I have an incomplete Monroney, but it is an aggressive vehicle. This one feels like it has that power. It has that sort of power when you hit the accelerator. Instead of suddenly it throws you back in your seat and you have like, oof, this is a performance car. Here we go. It takes you there quickly, but very in this sort of, I always like the word to say well-mannered. It's not going to disturb the passengers. It's not going to make your coffee slosh out of the cup holder if you forgot to put your lid on your coffee. It's very well-mannered in everything it does. But mostly the thing about this is it feels every bit the luxury car. The look of the materials, the feel of the materials. They have these seats, and I'm trying to find it. And of course, because I'm trying to find it and I'm live on the air now, I can't find it. But their seats do this the thing where the bolsters, like, you know, the active bolstering that comes in to hold you on the corners, like on some, it's not really active bolstering. It's active, like you're going faster. We're just going to hold you in place and you're not even going to know it. Cause then all of a sudden you brake and you feel the bolsters release and you don't even realize that they were getting tighter. It just is like, oh, you're slowing down. We'll relax now. So it has so many features. This is ridiculously long list. There's perforated leatherette inserts. There's contrast stitching. There's like this pattern to everything. There's quilted leather like on the doors. There's all these metal trims. Even the covers on the speakers are just beautiful. Everything about this car is beautiful. It looks like a luxury car. And again, it's $72,000. It's not cheap. But you feel like you're sitting in more than $72,000. You feel like you're sitting in something that's at least 10 grand more than that. And then there's like these premium features. It has this unbelievable audio system. So you miss me going through the neighborhood this afternoon, coming back to do the podcast with a sunroof open because beautiful day in New Hampshire. And it happened to be like this very gangsta stuff. And I am not that girl, but I'm like, I don't care. I'm enjoying this audio system bouncing through the neighborhood. It is a really beautiful, powerful, and every bit a luxury car. Again, it's just like the Hyundai, the Genesis thing is the same thing. You get more bang for your buck than you do in other brands, like no matter what the trim level. And this was the Prestige.
Did the one you have the 3D display, the instrument cluster display?
Yes. Oh, it did. It had and it looks, have you seen that, Sam, on another car?
Yeah, I drove it a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay. So the 3D okay, you know what it made me think of? It totally made me think of Tron. That's all I could think of looking at it. Like something about the blue and the way the colors. I'm like, all I could think of was Tron. I'm like, this is like Tron, but it's not a video game. It's actually the car I'm driving. That's all it looked like. If you see it, Roberto, you're going to look at it and go, oh my gosh, Nicole's totally right. Tron on the dashboard. Yeah. So it's really neat.
Yep,
like you kind of want to look at it and you think to yourself, like I actually moved my sunglasses. Like, are my sunglasses doing? No, it really still looks 3D, even if I'm just staring straight at it. So it's very cool. That's again a part of the whole luxury thing. Yeah, it's a part of the luxury thing. Like, is it necessary? Do you need that? No, but does it make it feel like you're driving something that's a little special, a little different, like you're a level above everybody else? Yeah, it makes it feel like you're driving something that's worth the price. It's little details like that make a luxury car feel special and feel luxurious. And that's one of them. Yeah, that 3D cluster is cool.
Speaking of details.
Yes.
What about the infotainment controller?
Oh, I had a hard time with it. I was trying. Here's the funnier part. My daughter got in the car for a hot minute. Don't get mad at me, Genesis, because she had to move the car because it blocked her in and I wasn't home. So she looked at it and saw and she's like, what? Which one of these changes the gears and which one of these what? Because there's the dial that has, park, reverse, neutral. That's a spinny one. And then there's the dial for the infotainment. She said she initially saw the letters for the, for the gears. And she's like, I'm spinning the infotainment. She's like, nothing's happened. Wait, it's the other one. Like she was confused for a second.
Like that was the instructions for the wheel for the
Right.
entertainment
She's like,
system.
I don't understand. There's too many little round dials here. What's happening? It is a little, I don't know. What'd you think, Sam? Did you like the little spinny dial?
I generally don't mind rotary controllers like that, but that particular implementation, like I said before, the knurling that they put on that outer perimeter, I think does not give my fingers quite enough traction. So you have to press down hard enough to get it to turn, that you often end up clicking it by mistake, because it also clicks. So if you press on the 3, 6, 9, 12 o'clock positions, it acts as a D-pad as well.
Yeah.
So if you press too hard to get it to turn, you end up clicking it at the same time and end up clicking on the wrong thing.
100%. I found the same thing. What I tried to do is what I found myself doing. I could, like you said, I couldn't quite there wasn't enough knurling on there to get to grab it. Like I just couldn't grab it with the ball, like the pad of my fingers. I kept using my nails. Like if I put my finger down, because girl, I have pretty nails. If I use my nails, then I could grab it. I'm like, I don't want to be grabbing this with the tip of my nail all the time. But that was the only way that I felt like I could really get it, is if I kind of put my nail against it, then I had enough traction. So it is something about that is just a little hard to use. Like the idea of it is cool.
Yeah, for that particular surface. On all the other controls that have the same texturing on there, I think it works really well. It feels really good, and it feels precision, like a precise piece of hardware. But just on that one particular control, it doesn't work.
Something's not quite right about it, because when I just tried to spin it with my finger, I just couldn't spin it with the pad of my finger. It just wouldn't. I couldn't get it to grab the way I wanted to. But when I tipped my finger down, so my nail kind of caught it a little bit, then I could pull it. I'm like, that's clearly not what you should be doing. I mean, you shouldn't have to have nails to get that to feel like you have a good grip on that. So there is a little something weird about that texture. I don't know if it needs to be just a little bit deeper maybe, or not quite as, like it's very fine. Like they're tiny little, it's a very fine mesh. Maybe it needs to be a little bit larger so that there's more bump to it. But I agree. It was a little bit awkward, was not super keen on that.
Have you driven any of the newer Genesises?
The Genesis, with the weird the wheel, it is weird. It's a sort of a weird situation. I feel like there's so much going for the car, and then you have this really odd infotainment system control that you're like, it's like it's odd.
I feel like infotainment controls are the things that most let me down in a car. Like I can forgive a lot, and there's a lot of things you're like, oh, that's not great, but I'm fine. But the infotainment, like why can't automakers just say, like, this is what we're doing? Everyone seems to like it this way. Stop messing with it. Just make it easy, make it simple, make it clean. It doesn't need to be this fancy, like ours is better. No, it's not. It's more confusing. Just leave it alone. Stop reinventing the wheel. Leave it alone.
The irony is that the Hyundai setup is just like, here's a tablet, essentially, and we just make it look nicer, and you just stab it like you do your tablet, and you're like, oh, this is one of the best infotainment systems on the market, because they didn't try to do anything crazy.
Yes.
And then
I
the
can
Genesis
just touch
line.
The screen.
Yeah, then the Genesis line, you have this like weird,
Well, and I did reach out. I'm like, wait, can I still touch the screen? Okay, here we go. Because the little spinny knob was just not. It was not. That was not a fan of the spinny knob. And I have one more. Are you ready for the last?
Another one.
I have one more. Guess
many
who
cars.
made this one? Guess who?
Lada.
Was it a Honda?
No, I'm staying on theme. You guys, it's another Genesis.
Oh,
I'm not even
Daihatsu.
kidding.
Oh, sorry.
I had the Genesis G70, which is my favorite of the lot, honestly. It was my favoritist. I had it for a weekend. I was in Milwaukee. I drove it from Chicago to Milwaukee and then tooled around Milwaukee for the weekend and then drove it back to Chicago. So I actually had a pretty good drive in it, like a decent long drive. I can honestly say I can't remember the last time I drove a car that far, because it's like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes with the traffic and stuff that we hit. I didn't even feel like I've been driving for that long. Like, you normally know you've been driving for that long. You're like, okay, I need to get out of the car now. I'd like to get out for just a little bit. Nope. One of the most comfortable sedan rides ever in a car. Across the absolutely terrible pavement that they have from Chicago to Milwaukee. It's like if you're not careful, you feel like it could swallow your whole tire, yet you won't feel it. You'll just, because none of the roughness and the bounciness and the harshness of the road ever comes through. Super, super comfortable ride. Very, very comfortable. A beautiful interior. The back seat is tight though. Again, 6-foot husband, 5'8" daughter said, "No, I'm going to sit behind you, Mom," because she couldn't get in the car behind him. There was literally like no leg room behind him when he had the seat pushed back. So if you have taller people, you're not going to be able to fit anyone in the rear seats. Once she was back there behind me, she was fine. So that was the one criticism of that was that it is, it's got tight legroom and it has a really aggressive, here's a weird one, the lane keep assist, to keep you in your lane, how it, it'll, you feel it push the wheel a little bit. It was getting super confused because they're doing lots of construction. So where you have that pavement where I guess it's like cement, so you can see the seams between the pieces and between the lanes, there's like a seam. As we're changing lanes because they've painted new lanes, because now we're all shifting half a lane to the right, it's grabbing that seam from the pavement and throwing me back to the left. It was enough that I actually turned it off because my husband's like, is it windy? I'm like, it is not windy. The car is fighting me because it's not reading the lanes right, because it's not following the construction. So that I'm driving, I'm like, find this in the infotainment system because you can turn it off in there. That's where you can, with the driver settings. It was super aggressive. It was having none of it. It was like, I will decide what the lane is. I'm like, no. I think the DPW will. Please don't do that. But yeah, so that was probably my biggest challenge with that. I literally had to turn it off. It was so aggressive.
Yeah, the Hyundai and Genesis highway drive assist system, their lane centering system, generally works really well. But yeah, like you said, the situation you described where you've got two separate indications of where the lane might be, and the system is clearly getting confused and picking the wrong one. That's a real problem, and that's something that all of these types of systems are going to have to deal with. I'll have to try out something with Super Cruise or Ford's Blue Cruise there one of these days as well, and see what it does.
They're doing a construction near my house on Interstate 80. And Super Cruise got confused by it because it kept moving. The lanes kept moving. Like every night, it'd be a little bit over, or a little bit this way, or a little bit that way. And they had like the little these like essentially like stickers that they had put up for it. And it was just like I'm supposed to be over here because the map tells me to be over here, but this is telling me to be over here, and the wall's right here. So maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah, It wasn't like super aggressive about it, but I was like, I got to take over. This is my jam.
It's one of those things you think you're like, okay, the technology is great, but it's not as if, I don't know where everybody else, but like here, there's construction all the time. Unless there's snow on the ground, there's construction happening here, and your lanes are changing, and you've got those little sticky markers on the lane, and then they peel up the sticky markers, and then you have like a black mark where the sticky markers were, and the actual original lane, and now where they put the new sticky markers. So there's like three different choices for what the side of the road is going to be. And it's like cars like, I have no idea what's happening here. And it can be... It's disconcerting. So it's not necessarily like, that Genesis, but that it's a technology that there are moments when, man, when it fails miserably to the point that you think, I got to turn this off because I am now looking like a drunken sot driving down the road, and it's just my lane keep assist.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and it doesn't matter what I've been in. I've had almost every car like do something insane. Teslas, Super Cruise, Hyundais, Hondas, Mercedes. They all get confused.
They do.
Yeah, most of these will tell you, in the manual, that you shouldn't use it in a construction zone anyway. Only use it where there's clearly marked lanes. So, but of course, nobody does that, until
you'd
they
have to
get
be
into
like
trouble like you did.
Like you're doing a road trip. You'd have to be like, turn it off. Oh wait, turn it on. Oh wait, turn it off. Like because the construction is like you have construction for 20 miles and then you don't have construction for 30 and then you have it for 10. Like, so if you really had to turn it off for a highway drive, which is really when you want lane keep assist, right? You're driving down the highway, you don't want to zone out. It's going to like bump you back in like, hey, you pay attention. Lane is over here. that's the moment kind of when you want it on those long drives. And on a long drive, that's when the road's just construction here, construction there. It's changing. And it's also not easy to turn off. Like it's inside, like some of them you can just push a button right on the dashboard and, turn that off. I didn't see a dashboard button. If there was there, I missed it. But you have to go into the infotainment, into like vehicle settings, safety systems, lane keep assist, then you can turn it off, which is why I had my husband, I'm like, go in there and do that now. But that was so with that and the narrow back seat. But it also again had a killer audio system. I don't know what exactly Genesis is doing to make their audio sound so unbelievable in their cars. We're like cruising down the highway with the audio way too loud and totally loving the ride. That was fantastic, and it was just, gosh, is that thing comfortable? It's so comfortable over those crazy potholed seams in the road, construction messed up highway. You just didn't feel it. It was incredibly comfortable, which is saying something.
Messed up highway.
Messed up highway. Yes, that's the rule. Messed up highway.
Yeah, I forget who they've got a branded premium audio system on Genesis now. I forget which brand it is, but I think on the GV80, I think it has something like 19 speakers.
Yes.
And, 1,000 some watts.
Wait a minute.
Crazy.
It's 15 speakers. I found it. It's 15 speaker lexicon system and the G70.
So yes, that's it.
15 speakers. It's a sedan, people. 15 speakers. I don't even know where all those speakers were.
In a comparatively small sedan.
In a small sedan. So there is an abundance of sound in that car, and it is fantastic. Like I feel like when you have a luxury car, it should look pretty, it should ride smooth, it should feel like a luxury car when you sit down, that like whoosh, cushy kind of seats, and it should have a killer audio system. And the G70 checked all those boxes.
And the GV80 is 21 speakers.
21. So it gets an extra 6 speakers for its extra size.
You got an extra row in there, so it's a bigger vehicle. There's more place to package them all.
It is definitely bigger. Yep.
Just cram some more speakers in there. Just cram them all in.
There. Squish, squish, squish.
We got this warehouse full of speakers. What do we do with all these speakers we have?
Let's make a deal with Genesis.
Yeah. Let's shove as many as we can in our car.
Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. All right, Roberto, what have you been driving?
I drove the Audi e-Tron GT and the Audi RS e-Tron GT. So these are the Halo EVs from Audi. You might have seen it in 2018, 2019 at the LA Auto Show when it was revealed.
19,
with,
I think. I think it was 19.
19. Yeah, I can't. Time makes no sense. It's a beautiful car, and I dig the way it looks. I think it's beautiful. And when I did, I got to drive it back then, but I could only go like 20 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour while being surrounded by police officers because it was a concept car, so it didn't have like suspension or stuff like that. This is a production vehicle. In fact, when they told us, they're like, oh, we asked, well, when will he be in showrooms? They said, oh, last week. So
there you go.
Yeah, so it the Audi e-Tron GT starting at, I'm just going to say $100,000 is in showrooms right now, and the RS e-Tron GT starts at $140,000. So they're very pricey, and they're also very much based on it's the same architecture as the Porsche Taycan. So if Porsche Taycan, Turbo S, all those, the Audi e-Tron GT shares a lot of bits and pieces and platform and all the juicy bits with the Taycan, but it also feels a bit like a different car. It's like the Taycan, but a bit more, I guess, classy, maybe a little bit more subtle. It's not as powerful. It's not as much a driver's car. It's not as much. It is a driver's car, but it's not as aggressive on the road. How's that? The steering's not as tight. The suspension's not as tight. The acceleration's not as like ugh. But you're still doing 0 to 60 in 3.9 and 3.2 seconds. So it's
How's
not.
that acceleration go, Roberto? The acceleration is not okay.
It's
all
not
right.
as
Okay.
That's the.
That's a technical phrase. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, in Audi, they were like, well, we're trying to make, it's a GT, it's a Grand Tour, so it's not. But then they had us drive it on, Angeles Crest Highway above LA, so they wanted us definitely to drive it and feel how it drove in the mountains, and I had a blast driving that thing. I really liked it. The regular e-Tron has 469 horsepower and 464 pound-feet of torque, and then it has this 2.5 boost mode, which it's something that Porsche's had on their ICE vehicles and now on the Taycan for a while. But it has this boost mode that increases the power to 522 horsepower and 472 pound-feet of torque. So you get a little extra something when you want to pass someone, or you could stick it in launch mode. The RS e-Tron GT, it has 590 horsepower and 612 pound-feet of torque, which is a lot. Yeah. And when you put it in boost mode, the horsepower stays the same. So you still get the 590 horsepower, but the torque goes up to 637 pound-feet, which is sort of bonkers when you're behind the wheel of a sedan.
So would you buy that? Would you, Roberto, would you buy that if you were going to do I'm going to work today on a Tuesday? Would you buy that car just to drive around, or would you only buy it if you were going to, I don't know, put it on a truck or do something crazy? Like, could you see driving
here's the
it
thing.
as a daily driver?
It's a weird. So the e-Tron GT. I completely see the market for that. This is people who want a beautiful looking, less aggressive version of the Taycan. It looks nicer than the Taycan. It's a bit more comfortable than the Taycan. Mm-hmm. It's Audi. The RS is where you end up with this really weird thing, because then it starts bumping up against Porsche's offering. So then you're like, well, do I want the Porsche or do I want the RS?
What do you do? What would you do?
I think. Well, I
you
really,
have to make a call. You have
if I had
the
to make the call, I would get the Porsche.
You would get the Porsche.
But I am also like the guy who owns a BRZ and drives around with a manual transmission and is like burning down his tires, drifting around corners. So that's So I am the outlier. I think we all think that we're going to be that person, but the reality is most people are not that person. Most people, they get a nice car, it looks really pretty. It's like the people who buy the Lamborghinis in LA, mm-hmm. and all they do is drive from their house to the club and to the house to the club, and sometimes on the freeway on the 405 at 5 in the morning when they got a quarter mile of open space before they hit more traffic, they slam the accelerator.
For half a second they can.
For half a second, yeah. I think you're going to get a lot of that with the RS. People are going to buy it because it is the RS, because it is more powerful. It is a beautiful car. I think it looks better than the Taycan, but I prefer the Taycan as an individual who wants to go a little bit faster and have a little bit more performance.
So you do the Taycan because fast car fast, but you do the Audi because pretty car pretty?
Yeah, but it's still fast. But the fast car is a little faster.
Okay.
So it's and of course everyone wants the range. The e-Tron GT has 238 miles of range. The RS has 232. So you're not really it's 6 miles. So you're not really losing a lot of range that way. I'm sure like Porsche, like all the Volkswagen Group vehicles, that number is being underreported. They've been picking the lower number from the EPA when their stuff is getting tested. So I'm sure it's going to be probably around 245, 250 when people actually get these on the road. I remember when I did the Porsche drive ahead of the EPA, when the EPA number came out, I'm like, that's not right.
That's a mistake.
The Taycan is way...
Well, a lot.
Yeah. Well, and also...
A lot of the Taycan tests have shown it to get like 280, 285 miles in highway driving.
It's ridiculous. I drove that thing up Angeles Crest Highway, up around. I did this big loop. It went up the back of Angeles Crest and then came back down into Glendale. And I was like driving as, a journalist, an automotive journalist, which means you're pushing the car, you're stopping and you're taking off, you're doing, you're using boost mode, you're doing launch control, you're doing all these things that should decimate the range, and it does decimate the range, but it wasn't as much as you would think based on what the EPA rating is for the vehicle. So it's, Volkswagen is probably a bit gun shy when it comes to anything that has anything to do with anything, and for good reason. Yeah, for good reason. It has an 800 volt system, which is nice, which means it'll charge it up to 270 kilowatts at a charging station that supports that. So Audi says you can go from 5 to 80% in about 23 minutes, which is if you're driving, you're going on a long drive. Again, you're probably going to get more than that 238. Let's say you do 250, so you go 250 miles, you pull over, you get from 5 to 80 in the time it takes you to go inside and get a big gulp or some beef jerky or whatever.
A coffee.
I don't drink coffee, so I always forget that people drink coffee.
Wait, you don't drink coffee?
I drink tea, and then when I'm traveling, I drink espresso.
Well, espresso is technically coffee.
It's like super coffee, but I like regular. Yes, but just like a coffee, like I don't get up in the morning and be like, I'm going to have a coffee. I don't. That's not me. I don't. I just I don't order coffee. I don't make coffee. I have all these things. Sometimes you get things in the mail, and a lot of times it's like, hey, here's an awesome carafe, or here's this thing to make coffee, or they'll send you coffee. I'm like.
Well, send me the coffee, because I drink all the coffee. All the ways.
Oh, okay. But I usually just give it away to whoever. I give away
to me. I want the fancy coffie.
Anytime automakers send me stuff, I just give it to children. Except for the coffee, I give to the...
You're giving children coffee.
Like, here you go. Start early. Start early, kid.
I quit drinking coffee for the most part a couple of years ago, and now when I get containers of coffee from automakers, my wife still drinks coffee. She makes her cold brew, so I give it to her.
So your wife is sane, but you're crazy. I approve of your wife's cold brew habit, but I don't know how I drink coffee. I love coffee. Coffee is life. I have coffee from everywhere in my cabinet.
Wow.
Coffee from Arizona. I have some from New Mexico. Shortly, I'll have coffee from New York City because that's where I'll be this week.
So if I see you out on the streets, I'll just hand you
coffee,
some coffee.
Yeah, I just expect to see you next time I see you at a program, Roberto. I just want you to have like an extra suitcase that I can check with all of your coffee paraphernalia in it that I will take back home to New Hampshire with me.
I do drink a lot of tea.
I do drink a lot of tea too. I got new tea this week from Steepology.
Ooh, I just drank Barry's Irish dark tea.
Ooh.
Just
That's it? One kind of tea?
And chai. I drink chai.
Okay.
So that's kind of it.
I'm
the
kind
berries,
of Earl Grey.
chai, and then Red Bull, which is a horrible habit. I was drinking so many of those when I was younger, and I was running news and just like you're just running. You're writing 12 articles a day. You're like
I love how you've cut out coffee like it's a habit, but you're like, no, that Red Bull.
Oh no, I never even really drank coffee. It wasn't like I was like,
never did.
No, I never really. Yeah, but I do like it.
I did. I would.
Yeah, I didn't.
I would make a pot of coffee in the morning and drink it all by mid-afternoon. And at auto shows, when they had espresso stands, espresso at all the automaker stands. I would drink like 10, 12 espressos a day when covering an auto show.
And an auto show, I do go crazy, but then you're up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and suddenly you're going to bed at midnight and you have to write stuff, and it's, the coffee is, you kind of need that espresso.
It was doing bad stuff to my blood pressure though.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know how we got on coffee, but anyway, I don't. When you pull over, it also has it has a 2-speed transmission like the Taycan, so you have that low end for taking off, and then that second gear for cruising. During launch control, they took us to an airfield to drive the vehicle, so we could do launch control. You could hear the wheels chirp in first and second gear, so that was fun. But when you have something that has, hold on again. 612 pound-feet of torque. Yeah. So I enjoyed the vehicle. I like the way it looks. Seating, front seat's fine. Back seat, if you're tall, sorry.
No joy.
There's no joy. Yeah. There's like, I'm 6'3", so when I have the seat back, there's maybe a child. A child could sit back there. You could put some children back there, or some your short friends. Or if you're all short, you can comfortably put 4 people. But if you have
for a short family, it's perfect.
One tall friend is going to ruin it for everyone.
Everything's out. Forget it. Now we can't go anywhere. You're too damn tall.
Yeah.
Not quite as spacious as the A7 then in the back seat.
No. It's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty tight. It's pretty tight in there. I think it has a lot to do with the design. Really, I think the design took over where it looks. Yeah. I think the drag coefficient...
It's got a pretty steeply sloped rear end.
Yeah. The drag coefficient is 0.24, I believe. I might have that written down somewhere.
I think that's what I recall you saying in the video.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did a video. You can go listen to that. And you can get a...
Well, I posted... the video's on wheelbearings.media if you want to check it out. I posted it on there a week ago.
Oh, cool. Yeah, you can go there and check it out and point and laugh at me for getting a 3.2 second of run instead of a 3.2 second run, and I was decimated by the fact that I couldn't do the 3.2. But speed, I know, like going fast in a straight line has never been like that exciting to me, especially when you're using launch control, because then it's just sort of the luck of the draw and how much you ate that day. I didn't eat lunch. I was so busy doing videos.
How much ballast you're carrying?
So you should have had a faster time if you didn't eat lunch.
I know
Come
I didn't eat lunch,
slacker.
but I have been eating a lot of lunch for the last 18 months. So, and every
the combined power of many lunches.
Has
slowed your time.
It did.
That's the best excuse I've ever heard of. I'm gonna be like, I don't know. I've eaten a lot of lunches this last year and a half.
I remember, who was it? Robbie, one of the IndyCar drivers was complaining because I can't remember her name. She was the first to drive Indianapolis.
Danica Patrick.
He was saying that it's not fair because she's so light. She doesn't weigh anything.
Yeah, well, she's tiny. She's like 5'2".
She's a little mid.
Yeah. But
I remember the first time I ever saw her.
Yeah, so but maybe Robbie should I don't know, eat less. And also Emerson Fittipaldi probably weighed like 60 pounds when he won the Indy 500 soaking wet. He's also a tiny person. He's essentially a jockey in a car. So anyway, eat less if you want to go faster is my story.
Eat less, go faster.
Or don't. You know what? It's like a tenth of a second in your daily life doesn't matter. So enjoy that sandwich.
Just you'll be slower.
Yeah, I like that philosophy better.
Yeah. Eat the sandwich.
Unless you're making your living, driving around in circles, then enjoy the lunch.
Eat the sandwich.
All right.
Sandwich.
All right. I had 2 quite different SUVs over the past couple of weeks. I had the first one was the new 2022 Acura MDX super handling all-wheel drive advanced A-Spec.
Ooh.
And so this is Acura's bigger three-row crossover with the A-Spec. I think that there's a Type S coming eventually, but that's not available yet. But right now they've got the A-Spec, which in the case of the MDX, there's only one powertrain. It's the Honda's lovely 3.5 liter V6, naturally aspirated V6, 290 horsepower. It's been around in various iterations for quite a long time now, but it's still a really nice engine. It's very smooth, makes a nice sound when you really get into it. The A-Spec, gives you some nicer looking wheels, some black trim, looks a little sportier, a little tighter suspension setup. The overall, the new MDX, it incorporates Acura's new design language, their precision crafted design or whatever it is. So it's got a similar look and feel to the new
Whatever
TLX.
Whatever the heck they call it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the grille, especially on the A-Spec. It's got this diamond pattern in there, so you've got these what looks like little diamonds that all kind of emanate from the center, from the Acura badge in the center, and spread out towards the edges. It's a cool looking design.
In my brain, they're all attacking the Acura thing. So I guess.
Oh, okay, maybe that's it.
Yours makes way more sense where they're coming out from the Acura because you're going so fast.
No, I kind of like yours.
In my brain, they're all like, get them.
It's like under siege.
Yeah, but it makes way more sense in your brain now. now I'll look at it correctly.
That was what they were going for.
On the A-Spec, you get 20-inch alloy wheels, all-season tires. It's like I said, it's not any quicker than any other MDX because they all have the same powertrain, but it drives really well. The ride quality is really good. It's roomy. It doesn't have the kind of that really luxury feel of the GV80. It's a very, it feels premium, but not kind of that traditional luxury feel that you get in the Genesis. So it's a very different kind of feel to it. It has the same touchpad system that's in the TLX. So it's the absolute positioning touchpad. So, if you're looking, you don't have to scroll back and forth on the pad. You just put your finger down on the pad in the place that's analogous to whatever it is you're trying to touch. So if you're trying to hit the icon in the upper right corner, you tap the upper right corner of the touchpad and it works. The ELS Studio audio system is really good. To my ears, which have been damaged by many years of way too loud music, I don't think I could necessarily tell the difference between the ELS system in the Acura and the Lexicon system in the Genesis, or the Revel system in a Lincoln, or any of the others. That as long any of these premium sound systems to me just sound really good.
I think the Lexicon sounds better.
I think it's funny that these vehicles are all as you get older, you can afford a nicer car with nicer audio. But as you get older, no matter what, even if you don't do anything, if your hearing just naturally degrades. So we're getting nice, us.
So maybe you think that these are all better. In reality, they're like
we gotta
charge them an extra $1,000. They'll never know.
Throw some children in there. And let them figure it out.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
If you're spending that extra money, then you're going to convince yourself that it's better. And they all sound really good to me.
None of them really
I've never
sound
been
bad.
an audiophile.
I have
exactly, yeah.
I have a BRZ, and it has the worst sound system in any vehicle on the planet. And every time I get in that car, and I'm like, I love this car, and then I turn the radio on, I'm like, oh.
I see your BRZ with a 2010 Dodge Charger. Check out that audio system. Poof.
Oh. It's battle of the bad audio.
It's bad.
And my 1990 Miata, it's nothing to write home about as far as. But I drive with the top down all the time, and I hear the engine, so it's fine. I'm not. I don't drive the Miata for the sound.
Didn't
for the
they
sound
put
system.
Speakers in the newer ones? Am I thinking of a different car? Put speakers in the headrest. Didn't somebody put speakers in the headrest?
Yeah. Well, actually, they did. They did right from the very beginning. They offered that as an option. And in fact, my Miata, it did not come with those speakers from the factory, but you can unzip the covering around the headrest, and you open it up, and the cutouts in the foam in the headrest are there for the speakers.
So you can did you put speakers in?
I did put speakers in. They had these little oddball. They were like about 2 by 4 inch oval shaped speakers from the factory. And of course you can't buy those anywhere. So I just got a pair of little 3.5 inch round speakers and, adjusted the foam a little bit and stuffed them in there. So it works fine. But it's still not a high end audio system by any stretch.
It's not a 15 speaker Lexicon or a 19 speaker ELS or whatever the heck that one is.
No, definitely not. So the MDX comes with the full suite of ADAS features like adaptive cruise control and collision mitigation, braking, and lane departure, lane keeping assist, all that stuff. So you get all the good stuff. The sticker price on the one I drove, was $62,175, including delivery charge. It's EPA rated at 21 miles per gallon. I think I got about 19 or 20 during my time driving it. So it's an enjoyable vehicle to drive. For a 3-row SUV. It's not the sportiest that you're going to find. It's nothing like an X5M or something like that. But it's got good driving dynamics. And the super handling all-wheel drive, the torque vectoring all-wheel drive system always works really well for, making the vehicle track around corners.
And the best name,
precisely.
really.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like something
you can't beat super handling all-wheel drive.
Super handling all-wheel drive.
Best name of any all-wheel drive system on the planet. I know the Quattro is, the most iconic, but really super handling all-wheel drive.
How good is it? It's super handling. That's how good it is.
It's a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's the Acura MDX. At the opposite end of the scale, I also drove another $60,000+ SUV, which was the Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Rubicon 4xe. So this is the plug-in hybrid, which I think Nicole, I think you guys own one now. Is yours a Rubicon or?
It is. We've had it for about a month now. So yes, it is exactly what we own in red, firecracker red.
Fancy.
Okay, I had the billet silver.
Okay.
So this is a Wrangler. If you're familiar with a Wrangler, this is largely like any other Wrangler. It drives pretty much the same, except slightly quicker because it's got more power. It's got another, it's got a 100 kilowatt electric motor in there, stuffed in there between the engine and the transmission, and it'll go about 21, 22 miles on a charge when you plug it in. And so you can get 22 miles of electric driving without running the engine. And I took it out and did a drive loop with it, which included a bunch of driving on some dirt roads, some gravel roads north of the city here, and then a little bit of highway driving and some mixed urban suburban driving. And I managed to get the 22 miles of driving range before the engine finally kicked on. It's rated overall at 49 miles per gallon equivalent, which for a Jeep is pretty remarkable. If you don't plug it in and you just drive it as a hybrid, you're going to get like low 20s at best. Which is, granted, better than most Wranglers will do, certainly better than they've traditionally done. But if you want to get the most out of this, you need to plug it in at night. Just plug it in. It'll charge up overnight. You can do most of your daily driving without using any gas. And it's quiet. I didn't get a chance to do any off-roading, but I did, drive it on various gravel roads with some pretty hefty potholes in there. And it's actually a really pleasant drive. Even with the windows down, and I had the Sky One Touch power top. So you hit the button and the whole fabric roof slides back, which is that's one of the nicest features on the Wranglers, I think. Although it's expensive at $4,000, but
that's what we got just because it's so convenient.
Yeah, base price, the cheapest Wrangler 4xe starts at $51,700. This one with all the options on it almost $66,000, $65,890, including the $1,500 delivery charge. It did have things like adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist. Also had the leather interior, which if you're planning to go off roading, with a Rubicon, I'm not sure why you'd necessarily want the leather interior, but whatever.
How many people who bought the Rubicon are going off roading? 20%. I think there's the hardcore 20, maybe. Like 10% are like hardcore. 5% of those are 5% of people are hardcore. That other 15% are like go off every once in a while. Everyone else, once a year, they'll go to the mountains and drive in some snow, or go down a dirt road to pick up a rock.
Well, and that's the thing with any of the capability, like in the Wrangler or even in the Bronco, it's like it can do all these absolutely amazeballs things, but how many people do that? Like 3?
No.
Yeah. They're so much more capable than what anybody is ever really, or most people are ever really going to need. But it doesn't negate the fun of knowing you could do it.
Yeah.
You could. Like zombie apocalypse, you're good to go.
Right. Just drive right over the zombies.
Yep. A higher percentage of Wrangler and Bronco owners are going to do that than probably for any other SUV.
Oh, yeah.
But that's still not the majority.
But still, most of them are. Yeah, if you say it, like far more likely in those cars, but still, out of 100% of Wrangler and Bronco owners, 20%, 15%, 10% are actually going to push these as hard as they can be pushed?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, with the Rubicon, you do get, the 2-range 4-wheel drive, so you got 4 high, 4 low. You get the sway bar disconnect in the front, locking differentials all around. So, if you get into the rough stuff, chances are you'll be able to get yourself out. And if not, then somebody can always hook up a tow strap to those nice blue tow hooks. That's how you can tell you got the plug-in hybrid, because instead of the red tow hooks on the Trailhawk or the regular Rubicon, you get blue tow hooks. Oh. So it's blue trim for the plug-in hybrid.
I was talking to someone at Jeep about my husband wanting to do things that the Jeep could do, but he doesn't have the off-road skills to handle. And I'm like, he seems to think he'll be able to get out of it. Just it's a Rubicon. And he's like, yeah, tell him if he does get himself stuck, the only thing that is getting himself out is a helicopter, because if he gets that stuck, nothing's going to be able to get in to get him out.
Oh, he could take a class, right?
Now,
we're going to actually send him out to Moab, and I have a class all lined up so he can learn what he's doing. So no, he'll be able to take advantage of it. He just, yeah, absolutely.
And one other thing about the 4xe, the plug-in hybrid, it's only available on the 4-door. You can't get that powertrain on the 2-door Broncos, or the 2-door Broncos, 2-door Wranglers.
You can't get it on the 2-door Bronco either.
You can't get it on a 2-door Bronco either.
4-door Bronco.
Yeah. But 2-door Wrangler, no plug-in hybrid, just the 4 doors. But that accounts for 80% of Wrangler sales now anyway, so no big deal. That's the Wrangler Unlimited Rubicon 4xe. And let's get into some other stuff.
If there was a Bronco hybrid, would you be all into it? Would you think it where would you put it between the Wrangler 4xe and a Bronco hybrid, plug-in hybrid?
There is going to be a Bronco hybrid.
Yeah. I mean, it's a given. That's going to happen.
I've driven the F-150 hybrid, and so it's going to be basically the same powertrain in the Bronco.
Okay.
And so I think they'll probably be pretty close, roughly equal. Especially if they do a plug-in hybrid version of the Bronco.
Yeah.
There probably won't be a whole lot of difference between the two.
I think a lot with a Bronco versus Wrangler is, whether it's the hybrid or just any, is that, one isn't so much better or so much worse than the other that you go like, well, I got to get this one because the other one's terrible. It gets down to a lot of just personal preference. You got to drive them both, or if you're like really a Bronco fan, you're going to go for the Bronco. If you're a hardcore Jeeper, you're going to stick with your Jeep. Would you be just as happy in the Bronco or vice versa? Probably, but I don't know unless Ford does something.
Each one's got some advantages and
right. Like you're better here, but you're worse there. We'll come to the other brand and it flips the other. There's pluses and minuses with each of them that makes them. It's hard to say one is really better than the other. They're just different than each other.
I just want to start a fight.
It also depends on which one you like the looks of.
Fight.
I just want to start a fight.
Fight.
I was adding drama to the podcast, but it turns out we're all adults. Oh, well.
We're all reasonable adults.
All
Sorry,
reasonable
Roberto.
adults. It's like, what should I get? I'm like, well, what do you want?
All right. Let's see. Did we mention the New York Auto Show was canceled?
The New York Auto Show is
if you're
canceled.
planning
New York Auto Show's canceled.
If you're planning to go to New York for the auto show, don't bother. Wait till next spring, maybe.
Don't go. Eat pizza instead.
It's off. Yeah. And I'll actually be in New York tomorrow as we record this, heading out there to drive something.
Cool.
Why we're driving it in New York, I have no idea.
No, it totally makes
talk about
sense to
that
drive
next
that vehicle in New York. I get it. 100%. I get it. Makes total sense. Total sense.
I don't know what vehicle we're talking about, but I never. Okay.
Yes, we'll think about what vehicle you would probably think would be perfectly not suited to the streets of a city, and come back to that
all
next
right
week.
then. Well, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. This week, President Joe Biden signed an executive order that suggests that the auto industry should aim to sell half of its vehicles with a plug by the end of this decade. Did you guys have a chance to take a look at what was in there, and got any thoughts on it?
Half of vehicles with a plug. Is this just like a I'd like to see this happen pie in the sky thing?
Yeah, it's a
Or
target.
is he like, I'm going to make this happen by doing these things?
It's okay.
more-
2030 is
more pie in the sky.
Like, what year is this? 21? It's 9 years away. All this
Yes.
stuff is going. This is like getting excited. This is like saying, when I turn 30, I'm gonna eat less pizza. You're like, hey, that's crazy. But no, you're probably gonna eat less pizza when you turn 30. It's very much something that's gonna happen anyway.
But do you think that 50%, think we'll get that far in 9 years?
Probably, yeah.
With a plug?
That
With
yeah.
a
I mean,
plug?
that is
Because
the
it's
target
everything.
that the industry is aiming for anyway.
Yeah, the industry's already like, we're going to do this. Yeah, everyone's already pushing for it. Everything's going to have either a hybrid, because we also have to think about outside of the United States. If you're building a platform that everywhere else in the world is a plug-in hybrid, and then you're like, oh, I guess I'll just make it an ICE vehicle in the United States. It's just like, oh, you know what, just here, and then we know that hybrids do well. I mean, the Prius, the ugliest, probably most boring car on the planet, does amazing, and so people are fine with
Not
hybrids.
anymore, but
Well, yeah, at the time, yeah. Well, for a long time, it was.
everybody's buying RAV4 hybrids now instead of Prius.
RAV4,
Right,
yeah.
still Toyota,
the RAV4
just
Prime.
switch one.
Yeah, they get the Prime, the RAV4 Prime.
Well, what should you buy? If you could buy the RAV4, you could buy the Prius. What would you buy?
Oh, I get the
I'd buy a
RAV4.
I
Jeez.
get the
easily the
RAV4.
RAV4.
Oh God.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, I've driven. I like to call it the RAD4, just because.
The RAV4, because it's cool.
Well, it's
Super cool.
I wouldn't say it's cool. I just like to say that. It is a great value. It is a Toyota. It's going to last 7,000 years, and you're going to get all the cool stuff that you want from Toyota is going to happen in the RAV4. It has a lot of stuff. It's got a lot of room. Just go buy it. Go RAV4, CRV hybrid. Both of those.
Go buy.
Just go throw your money at them and drive around and be happy.
But clearly, the executive order, while it doesn't specifically mandate 50% plug-in vehicles by 2030, it was clearly done in conjunction with the auto industry, saying, "This is something you can achieve? Yeah, okay, good. 50% sounds like a good number," and that's what everybody in the industry is targeting. That's what Ford and GM and Stellantis and Volkswagen, except for the EV only companies like Tesla and Fisker. All the traditional automakers or most of them are shooting for half of their vehicles by the end of the decade. And they threw in plug-in hybrids in there as well in order to satisfy Toyota, because Toyota doesn't like battery electric vehicles, so they're gonna do some plug-in hybrids.
They have hydrogen in there, don't they? Don't they have hydrogen? Isn't
all zero and low emission vehicles.
50% of the Toyota lineup is going to be Mirais.
Yeah.
Still only drive them around my house.
I think the other thing that they were trying. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say the favorite part of that whole thing was that Joe Biden was just like, I want to drive one of these. And apparently, like, the keys were in the Jeep. And they're like, well, the keys are in that one. Boom. Biden driving around in a 4xe. Like, from everything I've read reports, it's literally how it happened. He's like, I'd really like to drive one of these. And the Jeep guy just like, keys are in it. Go take it for a spin.
That's what happened when he was here in Dearborn.
I love that.
With the F-150
Jeep.
Lightning.
That was more marketing money than you would have spent in a year, and you just got it for free by having keys in your car.
Go drive the car. Knock yourself out.
Drive it wherever you want. I feel like you'll bring it back, Joe.
Yeah. I think they're the only people who are like sort of about all this.
Yeah.
The other stuff that was in the executive order, is looking at expanding the charging infrastructure. So the thing that the auto industry all said was, we support this. We think we can do this as long as we get support, in terms of expanding charging infrastructure and getting some incentives for vehicle sales, to get some tax breaks. And so the executive order also calls for changing from tax credits to a point of sale rebate, which will help actually lower the monthly payments for people, make it more affordable, instead of, only being people who actually have enough taxable income to be able to claim the full tax credit the following year. So that'll help more people be able to afford EVs, if they can get Congress to do it. Because the problem there is Congress has got to actually do something for any of that to happen. And, chances of that are probably pretty slim.
Just give people the money to buy the car. You're going to give them anyway. You're making it too complex with the tax thing. The IRS is already a mess. Here's your rebate. Get your money. Buy your EV. Have a good old day. Don't make them like do their taxes. Taxes already suck. Don't make it worse.
And then the last part of the executive order was also basically reversing what the previous administration did with the corporate average fuel economy standard, not going quite back to what it was under Obama, but getting closer to that. So under the Obama administration, they were targeting 54.5 miles per gallon by 2025 for fleet fuel economy. What the Biden executive order calls for is 52 miles per gallon in 2026. So the industry gets a little bit of a break there, because of the transition to bigger, heavier vehicles. And then, they continue ramping it up from there through 2030 as well. So that's what came out of Washington this week.
That's what the auto industry wanted in the first place. And then the Trump thing was just bonkers. And then the whole auto industry is like, no. Because it created all this uncertainty, especially when we have to deal with CARB in California, where they're like, no, what are you doing? Yeah.
I know.
I guess they got what they wanted.
The thing
eventually.
is, they were already planning for 54 anyway, so they already had their product plans in place to try to hit that. And, then they got undercut. So, speaking of EVs and EV charging, I drove up to Traverse City this past week in a Mach-E, and because the reason, it's from my house, it's about 250 miles to northern Michigan, and I wanted to see what it was like doing a road trip in an electric vehicle in northern Michigan, because I hadn't done that previously. And it actually, for the most part, worked out really well. I had, the chargers I used 6 different chargers over 6 days, a little over 600 miles of driving. And I actually didn't have to charge that many times. I could have gotten by with charging just probably twice. But I wanted to experience the different chargers in different locations, make sure they all worked. I had no issues there. When I went to Electrify America, plug and charge worked perfectly. I plugged it in. It authenticated the car, started charging, no problem at all. The big complaint I still have, though, about most of these public chargers is actually finding them. Because, you get things like Electrify America or even Tesla superchargers. They're usually located next to a mall or a big box store in the parking lot. And these chargers are usually about 5-6 feet tall, so about the height of a person. And if it's a full parking lot, there's you almost never any signage for these things as to exactly where they are in the parking lot. So actually finding the precise location, in the navigation, it'll tell you, yeah, it's at this Meijer store or this Walmart or, whatever, this Lowe's. And, then somewhere in that parking lot, you actually have to physically locate those chargers.
You just
They
cruise
make you work for it.
You just cruise in the parking lot like a weirdo, just
I would
staring
agree
all
with that.
over.
Like you're looking around, and if you're in a mall parking lot and it just says, Pheasant Lane Mall, you're like,
mall.
okay, that's 52 miles of parking. Which entrance did you decide was the one got the EV charger? Could you give me a hint?
I called Electrify America about a charging station at a mall, and it was on like the third floor or the fourth
Oh my
floor.
gosh.
And so there was the ground floor, there was the basement floor, there was the first floor, second floor, and then third floor. And I pulled in and I drove around the first floor. I'm like, well, maybe it's down. So I went down to the underground floor. I'm like, okay, maybe the second floor. So then I went to the second. Okay, if it's not on any of these, it's on the top floor. Then I went up to the top floor, and I got like something, and I call. And I'm like, yeah, you need to say where it's at. Because just saying it's at the mall is not. You have to give
helping.
You have to give people the floor, and even if you have to just give them the northeast corner, at least something. It can't just be the mall.
I feel like they need to give you a thing like the mall on the Target side or the mall by Nordstrom or something.
Yeah,
like at least give me
us-
a region of the mall where I should start driving circles.
How close is it?
Circles to get closer and closer to where it is.
How close is it to a pretzel? I just want a mall pretzel.
Is it near Auntie Anne's or not? That's all I need to know.
Really know.
Yeah, so the first EA station I stopped at, it was actually on a Sunday afternoon. The parking lot was mostly empty, so it was easy to find. But then the next day or the day after that, I went looking for a charge point charger that was about a 10-minute walk away from the Airbnb we were staying at, and it was in a hospital parking garage. Similar kind of situation to what you were describing, Robbie. And it was on the second floor. Tucked away in a corner, where, I could have been driving around and not even noticed it there. And, I was using the ChargePoint app, and the ChargePoint app works in Android Auto. So it shows you, gives you the addresses of where the chargers are, but it doesn't show you all the notes. If you actually unplug your phone and look in the ChargePoint app and click on the charger, it actually does have some more detailed notes. And in there it said, oh, it's on the second floor of this parking garage. But it doesn't show you that in Android Auto or Apple CarPlay for some reason. So that's something for ChargePoint to address. But, just in general, in any navigation system, if you're going to put locations of chargers, and this applies to Google Maps and Apple Maps, which all do charger locations, and in the built-in nav systems in cars, same thing goes for Ford Sync, their nav system. Please put more precise detail. And for those that are installing chargers, yes, if you're gonna have a charger in your parking facility, put a sign at the entrance, and say, the EV chargers are on the second floor.
Even if you just give us the floor, even the floor, or just
a little plug symbol in the number two, like plugs on two, I'm going that way,
or something. There's 1,000 exit signs. There's 1,000 parking signs. Like, I don't know, put up 5 charging signs. Just say, go to the third floor, and then just have a little go this way, go this way. No, you're almost there, I swear. Yes, it's in the far corner where it's going to take you 20 minutes to walk to the mall, but you're going to get charged. Just give us some information.
and if it's in a parking lot in the mall, the ground level parking lot or big box store, put a sign there. You're looking for gas. Gas stations have huge signs. But do that for the chargers.
Big giant light up signs.
Put it 20 feet up in the air and say, have an arrow there, say, here's the chargers right here.
You can put a lightning bolt there. It'll be awesome. It'll be like a heavy metal. Do it.
Yeah, they should also just have a lightning bolt that blinks, and the bolt should point in the direction of the charger. So you just keep following the bolt.
Yeah.
I like it. There you go.
There's
some good user interface design.
Lightning bolt explosions.
While I was in Traverse City, I also had a chance to chat with Craig Stevens from Ford, Kevin Mull from Bosch, and why can't I remember her name now? Heather, I'm sorry. Heather Willberger from Bedrock about the new Detroit Smart Parking Lab. And there's an interview that I will paste in right here. And we'll be right back and answer some listener questions. Announcing today this new program that is, I guess, you call it a development of what we saw last year with the automated valet parking system that you demoed in Detroit last year. Building on that and expanding it, give me an overview of what Ford and Bosch and the state of Michigan are doing.
Yeah, and we'll throw Bedrock into the
Bedrock
as well.
Course,
yeah,
and ACM.
And ACM. Yeah, well, we can explain all that to you. So, Craig, if you don't mind, I will maybe start with a little bit of the overview. So, the project last summer went really well, and I think that what kind of the catalyst was for this was the collaboration that we had. It felt so easy and natural, and it was the right mix of collaborators that, we kind of said, we don't really want this to end here, and we started thinking about what the next thing could be. And then as our discussions evolved with Trevor Paul's team in the state of Michigan, we wanted to bring them into the program, and through that dialogue and, to best align with their mission, we decided we wanted to kind of expand the scope to, not just valet parking. We would call that a very significant project that we did together, but we wanted to make this more of an innovation platform and broaden the scope to include logistics for some last mile logistics use cases and EV charging, still inspired around parking, parking inspired, but, much broader than just the automated movement of the vehicle. So we, decided that we also wanted to have a, very legitimate operator to run the lab for us, and that's where we brought ACM into the dialogue, and they were really accommodating to us, and we agreed that they would become the operator of the lab. And then, of course, we'll talk more about this later, I suppose. Then we were able to bring Enterprise in as our launch project. So it became Ford and Bedrock and the state of Michigan and Bosch collaborating together, bringing ACM on as our operator and Enterprise in as our launch project.
So to just step back a little bit for those that are not familiar with it, the original project was using the Bosch automated valet parking system combined with Ford vehicles with built-in connectivity. You got sensors in the parking facility that detect where vehicles and pedestrians are and where they're moving around within the facility. And then as a vehicle comes in, driver stops on the parking pad, gets out, system communicates over Wi-Fi to the vehicle, and then guides it and sends the commands for where it should go, right? Is that right? Correct? Spot on. Okay. So with Enterprise, I guess, where does it go from here with this new, as a platform? Are companies like Enterprise and other potential partners that come in, are they going to be using that same setup, or are they going to be adding additional things to that? How's that all going to work?
I think that's why we want to put the Detroit Smart Parking Lab, is for people to experiment, right, with whatever they think is going to help their business, right? There is parking is a pain point for everybody, right? So it's a pain point for consumers, it's a pain point for commercial vehicles, it's a pain point for cities, right? So I think the intent here is to create a place where people can experiment with eliminating that pain point.
Yeah, and if I could add to that, regarding, what you saw last summer with the automated valet parking, the infrastructure provider is a big element of that. And, we think infrastructure obviously is going to have a big impact on automated and autonomous vehicle movement, down the road. But where Enterprise comes in is we're pivoting that platform that you saw, the automated valet parking. That was a consumer parking use case, we're going to use the same technology but apply it to a rental car use case and how we can potentially impact the operations of a rental car company in moving vehicles around their operation, in between rentals when the vehicle needs to be cleaned and charged or fueled before the next rental. So that's the focus of the Enterprise project.
Yeah, so my understanding is Enterprise has had a program of doing quick turnarounds. Obviously, for a business like that, you don't want the cars sitting around idle for any longer than necessary. You want to be able to get, customer brings it in, get it cleaned up, fueled, and get it back out to another customer as soon as possible, because just like aircraft, when they're sitting idle, they're not generating revenue for you. So is Enterprise, I guess, what sort of things are they going to do? Are they going to have some of their team come in and practice, doing, as vehicles go in and out, practice doing the things that they would normally do at a rental facility? Or are they actually going to operate a rental facility out of this garage in Detroit? Or
we're basically going to simulate that vehicle path, but with automated vehicle movement, and just check the true feasibility. Can this level of automated vehicle movement really fit into their use case? Can it? So it's just a proof of concept. We're working together to analyze that to see if all of those steps could have some level of automation to optimize the process on their behalf. So they will be there. Their experts will be there with us to instruct us on how the vehicle should move and what the steps should be. And then we'll work together to figure out if that really is feasible in their environment.
And I understand, one of the things that they may be looking at as part of this is also automated charging for EVs, which actually today, as we're talking, is particularly appropriate given that the Biden administration is supposed to make some announcements today about plans for future emission standards and EV adoption. So is Enterprise going to be doing something around automated EV charging as part of this test program?
It is, yes. That's something that we're going to look at as to, what would the impact be of using the technology to move the vehicle to and from a charge station as part of the process. So we'll do a simulation of that in the lab, and then we'll run some analysis to see, at the volume of vehicles that they have to process at one of their facilities, is that type of charging, going to optimize their process, or does it need to be done a different way? So we will take a very good look at that process.
Will the vehicles that are going to be used, are they going to be the same Ford vehicles that you were using for the test program last year? Or
we have those two vehicles available, and the idea is if we're taking this next step of automated parking, so that we have automated parking today, but as Kevin said, really the next step needs to involve the infrastructure, right? So if you're involving the infrastructure, Ford's not going to provide all the infrastructure, Bosch probably isn't going to provide all the infrastructure, so we need to set up standards, right, of how the vehicles, the infrastructure are going to interface, and so we will use our vehicles to help understand what that interface is and develop that interface and share that interface, right, with others who might want to achieve the same end result. So as we do that, we will undoubtedly end up taking that interface and putting it onto other vehicles, other platforms.
Is there any work going on already in terms of a standards process for something like this to develop standardized interfaces, communication protocols, or anything else?
There is a project in Germany, and it's a cross-industry project. We're both involved in that. This would be the first step in the U.S., though.
That's correct. Yeah, and as part of the agreement with ACM, they're going to help us establish that standards committee, and then they will chair that committee for us.
Okay. Is that going to be through SAE or
just directly led by ACM?
Okay.
Yep.
So what other potential types of projects do you foresee? What are the sorts of applications do you see possibly being built on this sort of platform?
Yeah. I think each of us, Bedrock, Bosch, Ford, we have our own ideas, and that was part of the open innovation platform. We have to really stress the open part. We all agreed that anybody can come in there and test, even if it's somebody that one of us as our own individual company may not naturally work with. But we said, look, it's just open, and I think that the breadth of the opportunities, it could be something that Bedrock applies that physically moves the vehicle around. Maybe it's not some level of automation, or it could be something associated with the gate system in the garage, or cameras in the overhead that help watch where the car goes, track the vehicle to see what parking space it goes to. It could be reserving parking spots for a delivery vehicle. And of course, we will focus definitely on EV charging. That's a big component. So it's meant to be very, very broad, and we want people to leverage the grant program that the state of Michigan has made available to us as part of the lab to make applications, and then our team will review all those applications and decide which projects come into the lab.
So that team would be Bedrock, Bosch, Ford, and ACM.
And the state of Michigan. Yeah.
So how much funding has the state made available in total for this, or is there a specific number?
Yeah, I don't want to say that number just yet, because I think that that's something that the state would indicate, but it's a pretty significant number.
Okay. And after Enterprise, when do you expect to see perhaps more partners coming in and trying things out at the lab?
We have a very active pipeline, so there are a number of projects that are kind of in the queue waiting to get the application formalized now that it's going to be live after today, and then we will kind of accelerate our evaluation so that we can get the next projects in. The idea is that we want multiple projects going on in the lab if possible. So if there's physical area available and technology platforms in the garage that are available for access, if we can coordinate it, we want multiple projects in at the same time.
Okay, great. What about some of your direct competitors, other OEMs or other suppliers? I would assume that given that part of this process is developing standards, you might actually want some of your competitors to come in and work on things like interoperability.
Yeah, that would be great. That was part of the discussion that we had at the very beginning, right? When we're talking about the infrastructure being part of the eliminate this pain point, there has to be a cross-industry platform, and so we hope that this effort, the standards work, and having a facility where people can come and test will accelerate that.
Yeah, all are welcome.
Yeah.
All are welcome.
Obviously, Bosch has been doing some of the work with the automated valet parking in Europe as well, in Germany. Are you also planning to do something like the Detroit Smart Parking Lab at a location in Europe? Is that part of the plan, and to enable some of the companies over there to participate a little more easily?
I think all of us would be open to that, but right now our focus is here in the region.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
But I think we're going to get significant learnings from that, and then we'll decide how to extend or scale what we're doing. I think one thing that's important to note too is Heather's here from Bedrock, and they've made this amazing facility available to us. State-of-the-art garage. You got to see it last year, so it's a great platform to work from. But we don't want this to only be parking garage related parking activity. So if there's something that's curbside or something in a surface lot or whatever, we want to test that too. We do have the ability with ACM even to do things that may not fit into the four walls of the garage. We could extend out their platform.
Do some things at Willow Run as well.
Yeah, for example. But I think, the heart of it is going to be in the Bedrock facility. That's kind of the linchpin. It's perfectly positioned between downtown and Corktown. So, Ford and Bedrock have made, massive investments in those areas, and we feel like we're right at the intersection of those investments. And now we're really going to look together to figure out how to optimize the technology that's available.
Yeah, it's part of Bedrock, and as a real estate owner, we're really keenly interested to understand the consumer experience, tenants, residential tenants, commercial tenants, and how we can leverage a smarter parking technology just to make life a lot easier so people can park when and where they choose to. The other big piece that we're interested in is really going to be around sustainability and how we can leverage some of these parking technology tests to optimize sustainability within our techs.
Yeah, it would make sense for a company like Bedrock. You own and manage a lot of properties, and especially for example, for residential properties or commercial properties. Things like being able to manage charging, either residential or workplace charging for multi-unit dwellings. That's as we move forward with more EV adoption, that's going to be a big thing. Is managing that charging infrastructure and enabling all of your residents, whether it be residential or commercial, to take advantage of that. And maybe automatically shuffle cars around for them as they get charged or need charging.
Yeah, and I think the other piece that we'll be keenly interested is culturally and society begins to shift as we come out of COVID. What does parking utilization look like across all of our portfolio? And are there opportunities to think about using parking decks in non-traditional ways so that we can really take advantage of the space?
Those comments, I think, were one of the things that made what we did last summer so valuable, and will catalyze some of the ideas of coming up with the Smart Parking Lab, in that the perspectives that Bedrock brought from their customers' perspective, right, and their space utilization really saw that there were multiple stakeholders, right, in eliminating this sort of low speed, moving vehicles around problem, parking problem, and that together we could do something better than some of the parts.
That's right. Well, any final thoughts you'd like to share about this project and maybe where things go in the future?
I publicly can tell Bosch and Ford and ACM and some of the partners, we've worked so hard for so long. It's been an incredible collaborative journey with a wonderful public-private partnership, which I think is really the secret sauce of the entire thing.
That's right.
And it's been fun.
It has been, and I think once we open the doors, so to speak. I mean, it's obviously not open to the public, but once we get some of these demonstrations going. One thing to be clear about is I think, with ACM as our operating partner, obviously there's a lot of really important testing, but also very confidential testing that's going there. The lab has a little bit of a different orientation. I like to explain it as almost like a trade show floor, where we want people to come in and exhibit. So it's testing, but it's also demonstration. And that's where, we go in the direction that Heather was alluding to, where we want to get feedback from all those different stakeholders. So, we want the lab to be as open as possible for that sort of thing, too. I mean, we'll protect the assets that are in there, obviously, and we'll make sure that confidentiality and all that is protected, but it's not, a lockdown proving ground. It's somewhere where we want to be able to design our projects where people can come in and access them.
Yeah, and clearly user experience, has to be a key part of these kinds of technologies, whether it's individuals that are bringing their car into park, residents, or a business like a rental agency. How are the employees going to interact with this technology and get the best use out of it? So,
and I think that's a very cool thing about the property is, you may recall from being there, behind the assembly garage is the assembly property, which is a mixed-use commercial and residential space. So we literally have access to those quote-unquote users, right across the alley. So it's in a great spot in that regard.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for your time today. This has been a fantastic conversation. Looking forward to see what kinds of interesting results come out of this program.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you, Sam. We'll have you over once we get going.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you.
All right. All right. Let's do some listener questions. William Charles asks, could electric car manufacturers extend range by sacrificing acceleration? Well, they could, or you could just sacrifice the acceleration yourself. Don't
be silly.
The range is based on the range is based on how you drive. So you don't have to use that acceleration. If your car's got 600 foot-pounds of torque, you don't have to use it every time you accelerate.
You get better fuel economy if you're easy on the gas. I think you could be easy on that accelerator pedal when it's an EV, and poof, things would be better.
Yeah, I think and I think some of the selling point of the EV initially when you first get it is the fact that it has that low end torque. You're like, like that. That is just that. Again, anytime you put someone in an EV, they're going to be like, oh, now I get it. But yeah, after a while, you drive your car. You probably put in eco mode when you're just cruising on the highway. You probably, maybe don't slam on the accelerator when you're cruising around town because you realize, in California, gas is almost $5 a gallon. So
Good Lord.
Yeah. I have a picture of like a gas station in LA when I was in LA for the e-Tron drive. And it was like almost $6. It was some ridiculous number. I took a picture and I should have posted on social media, but I didn't feel like having people yell about how horrible California is. It's $6.19 for Super Plus at a Mobile. That's how much it was. Yeah. But that's sort of the outlier.
I'll be quiet about my $3 a gallon gas now. I feel like I can't complain much about that.
Stop your belly aching. No.
Yep.
Ours is about $3.25 here.
But but what's nice is that, or what's not nice is in a car, when you take your foot off the accelerator, you're not making more electricity. You're not making
exactly. In an EV, it's like you're doing good stuff.
You're like, look at this. Woo, I'm making
exactly. Yeah, so the thing to remember with an EV and also for gas cars, but especially for EVs, is your range is going to be affected by the 3 T's: temperature, terrain, and technique. And if it's cold, you're going to get less range, or if it's too hot, you're also going to get less range. If you're driving mountainous regions, you're probably going to get a little less range, although you'll make it up on the downhill side. And technique, how you drive, if you have a lighter foot on the accelerator, because the reality is if you put a less powerful motor in the vehicle, it's probably not going to have a huge impact on the range, because the way the range is measured is, fairly low levels of acceleration anyway for the EPA testing. And, so basically in the EPA testing, there's a lot of performance that's never getting utilized. So if you don't utilize that performance on the road, you're going to get better range. If you do, if you are constantly testing the launch controller in your e-Tron GT, you're not going to get 235 miles of range.
Roberto.
But you won't care. And also, Americans aren't going to buy a car with we have a base level of power we want in vehicles, and every once in a while a car will come out like a version of a vehicle. I remember there was a version of the Mini that was less powerful, but it was cheaper in Europe. And I was like, why don't they bring that here? And Minnie's like, because that would be stupid. No one's going to buy this. It doesn't have the power. No one's going to buy the cheap, wimpy Mini in the United States. Whereas in Europe, people are like, oh, I'm just driving around town. I just got to get my stuff done. And the United States,
when you're paying $8 a gallon for gas.
Yeah. In the United States, everything's a NASCAR race. So.
Wait, you mean it's not?
Exactly.
No.
Everything is a NASCAR race.
All right. Coach Cabrera asks, what trim level is the sweet spot when ordering an F-150 Lightning, especially if you want all the driver safety features available? So actually, a lot of the driver safety stuff is going to be there even on the base trim level, which is actually the Pro. But in general, I think anytime you're looking at a Ford vehicle or for most anything, the sweet spot is really kind of the mid trim levels. So in the case of the F-150 Lightning, it's got 4 trims. You got the Pro, which is the base work truck, the XLT, the Lariat, and the Platinum. The XLT is probably the best value.
Yeah, I think once you get past the XLT, it just gets sort of it's too much. And again, that's me personally as a person who thinks trucks are like hammers. They're tools for hauling stuff around and scratching up and driving over things and picking up hay. And then I get into like I do. But then you get into a platinum and it's like, yeah, and mulch. But then you get into the platinum and it's so fancy and nice. And lots of people love that. And, that's wonderful for you. But for me, I'm like, no. This is way too nice because I'm going to get all dirty using the truck, and now I'm going to get into this nice interior
and the fancy and
mess
nice
it all up.
Takes your price from being like, oh, I'm buying a truck to, oh, good Lord, I'm buying a truck with every last penny that I have. When you start going for those higher, like I now am eating like a college student, but look at my truck. You just they're so expensive when you get to those higher levels.
You're buying a luxury vehicle with a bed.
Yes.
Which I can't.
You're going to need to sleep in it because you can't afford your rent anymore.
All right. Joe M. asks, what would you recommend in a retractable hardtop and or overall best year Miata? Trying to get the most bang for the buck. Trying to stay about $10,000. Well, that's getting a lot harder to do with a Miata. Miata prices, like a lot of other older cars, have started to go up quite a bit. But if you want the retractable hardtop, I would recommend that you take a look at the third generation because they only offered that on the third generation. They've got the RF on the new one, which is a little bit different. But the third generation, the NC Miatas, which were from about 2007, I think 2006 or 7 until like 2014 or 15. They had a retractable hardtop option, which, in profile looks just like the soft top, except it's a 3-piece hardtop that disappears into the same space. It's really nice. And I don't think you're going to get one of those for $10,000, but you probably can find a nice NC for that $10,000 price range. That's probably your best bet.
Good luck.
Any thoughts on that?
No, I think you're the Miata guy.
I was going to say that's kind of a Sam question. So what Sam said.
What Sam said. I'm too tall for Miatas, so I don't pay that much attention. Other than I wish they fit tall people. That's my issue with Miatas.
I wish they fit tall people.
Yeah. My friend who I bought my Miata from, my 1990, he just bought an NC soft top. I think it's a 2012. And I think he paid about 11 or 12 for it. So I think you can find some higher mileage ones for that $10,000 range, but not with the hard top.
Yeah.
All right. Chuck Gouldsby asks, we just put an offer on a house that may very well be our forever home.
Congratulations.
The only downside about it is, as far as automobiles go, is that it is at the end of a 2+ mile gravel road that is very washboard rutted. So we're selling my wife's BMW 5 Series. KBB pegs it at $7,000 more than we paid, thanks to those elevated used car prices right now.
Woohoo!
And I will very likely have to buy an enclosed trailer to shuttle my collector cars up and down to actual pavement when I want to drive them. I want my winter beater car. I figure my winter beater car, a 2008 Subaru Outback wagon, will become my primary year-round driver, and the M Roadster will only come out like Sam's first-gen Miata. What to replace my wife's 535i with? When we met, she was driving a big Lexus SUV, which sadly succumbed to a mule deer buck at 50 miles an hour, a constant risk here in Central Oregon. So I think a good all-wheel drive SUV or crossover would be best for her. She prefers luxury and easy tech like CarPlay over performance, and all-wheel drive and great tires will get her up and down our nutty, ruddy mountain road. I'm leaning towards another Lexus or Toyota, open to a Subaru or a Mazda. I do recall you folks raving about one of the Korean SUVs or crossovers lately, but admit to not paying attention to your discussions around SUVs, as I selfishly don't care about that class of vehicle.
Well, you should have listened. We're not answering your question. Never mind.
Remind me of some better options. So what would you suggest for Chuck in a nice SUV? With easy to use infotainment and some luxury, some decent level of luxury over performance.
Oof. I was going to say the X5, but that's probably a little bit too pricey, just because they're used to the 5 Series, and you can sort of, Apple CarPlay, or just, it's essentially, it's just a 5 Series up off the ground. Maybe the Telluride.
Oh, I was going to say Telluride.
Yeah. I think that's probably what he was referring to.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Either the Telluride or the Palisade.
I know he's driving like with the BMW thing. He's driving, or his wife was driving a very different vehicle. But go drive a Telluride. It's not all about performance. It's beautiful inside. It's a good price. It's roomy as heck. I would say Telluride. That would be my first thought.
So he wants to. He's going to be dragging a trailer with this. So the Telluride has 5,000 pounds towing capacity, which I think should be fine. What's he rolling around in? What's his fancy?
In the 08 Outback.
No, but his M Roadster. Maybe he'll be. Oh, he has some collector cars.
He's got an M Roadster.
I shuttle my collection cars up and down to actual pavement when I want to drive them. Yeah, I think that would be fine. Because he's just it sounds like he's not, yeah. Telluride. Give it a go. Give it a chance. Drive it around. See if you like it.
And if she wants something a little more classically luxury flavored, then the Palisade would be the other alternative. Yeah. So either the Palisade or the Telluride. Although I think the Telluride is more in keeping with the Central Oregon vibe.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
I like that. Between the two, I go Telluride, but drive both of them. See what you think. See what she likes the look of, the feel of, the comfort of, but definitely give them both a shot.
When I speaking of towing, when I was in Germany, I don't know, whenever that happened, a couple of weeks ago, there was someone towing a single horse trailer. So it's the horse trailer for one horse with a Subaru Legacy wagon.
There you go.
I was like,
excellent.
See, you don't need the big giant, you don't need a 1,500 Ram or 2,500 Ram to haul your one horse. You just need a Subaru Legacy wagon.
To haul your one horse. Just one horse? Get a Subaru.
Yeah, just get the Subaru Legacy wagon.
Okay. Finally, Adam Jordison asks, here's the backstory. Family of 5, all 3 kids are preteen age, so no more car seats, thankfully. We bought a 2012 Chrysler Town & Country in November of 2011, but it only has 60,000 miles on it right now. That's low mileage for a 10-year-old Town & Country.
Yeah.
Here's the question. What is the outlook for 3-row electric vehicles on dealer lots by the end of 2022? Would a PHEV be the best option? I'm not going to go and try and purchase a vehicle this year because of the current state of inventory at dealerships and potential for markups. However, I was curious about the marketplace, how the marketplace may look in 18 months. So, I mean, if you like a minivan, you like the Town & Country, obviously I would definitely consider the Pacifica plug-in hybrid.
Yeah, Pacifica plug-in hybrid. You got a lot of kids.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know where he lives. Where does he live? Does it say?
He didn't say.
Okay,
so does not say.
I'm going to say that the Pacifica, the plug-in hybrid would probably be best for right now, that 2022. Just because I don't know where. If you live in California, if there is an EV available at the end of 2022 with that, then yeah, go for it. But if you live in like Ohio, get the PHEV.
Yep. I'm not. I mean, there are going to be a bunch of 3-row electric crossovers coming. Whether they'll actually be available for sale by the end of 22 or sometime in 2023 is not clear.
If you can wait till 20
a 3-row?
I don't.
What's that?
The Fisker Ocean.
The Fisker Ocean.
Rebecca, paging Rebecca.
I think it's
call
a 2-row.
Rebecca and ask her. You know what he can do is wait an extra year and get the ID Buzz. Get the electric.
Yeah, in 23 you get the Buzz on sale here.
Just wait an extra year because you still got 60,000 miles. So by 2023,
rid of this one?
By 2023. He'll be at 80,000 miles.
I don't understand if he's a 2012.
And clearly, if they've accumulated 60,000 miles over 10 years, they're totally not driving long distances with this thing. So, an EV is going to be a great option.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can wait till 23, get the ID Buzz. Yeah. Otherwise, get the Pacifica hybrid.
Your kids will be so stoked if you get that as opposed to... I love minivans. I think minivans are amazing and awesome, but I don't know any teenagers who are like, yeah, minivans. But if you had an ID Buzz, you'd be the cool... Every time your kids would want you to drop them off in front of the school instead of down the street. So if you want to be the cool parent, I'm just saying...
That's what you need to do. Is you need to wait till 2023.
2023, Adam. Be the cool parent.
There you go. And with that, we're all done. We're out of questions for this week.
Yay! Oh,
and that's it.
That sounds weird when I say yay. Right. Question. Like I'm celebrating. People just like, we're done with you three.
It's late. It's late here
anyway.
It's
late. It's late.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.